Hey, everybody. So I thought that I had a few other wild lettuce videos, and for some reason, like none of them are showing up. I would have done them last year. There's one other one that shows up, and that will show you how to harvest the wild lettuce. In this video, I just wanted to do a little bit of fact checking and sort of myth busting, and show you the easiest way that I've found after a few years of trying it in season to make the resin for the wild lettuce. So we're gonna scooch over here, and what you'll see here is I have a crock pot going, and we'll see what's in there. This is just basically water. It's just brown water right now. And then this over here, let's see, cool yet it is. I also have oranges in there now because it's all going to the compost. But this is the wild lettuce stalk right here. And then there's also leaves. And you can keep processing these. You can eat these right away. I am not, because I'm not feeling that lucky yet on my wild leaf eating sensitivities, which for the past few years have been really tough. Just my sensitivities in general have been really tough. So I'm not going to do that this year. But you can if you want. So what I've discovered, which you won't find in other YouTube videos that I have discovered, is that 1 pot per stalk harvest is what you need. A lot of people do kind of that ratio, and then about a gallon of water in there. You want to make sure the water is either distilled or a very clean, good spring water that your body responds well to, because it's all going to evaporate. It's really just there to pull out the nutrients from the wild lettuce, and then as it evaporates, that's going to get more and more and more concentrated. Each stalk is going to give you, where's my little container? Hang on. Where'd it go? Well, it gives you about a half cup. Oh, mine is in my dehydrator. If you can hear that humming sound, it's in here. It's dehydrating in a mason jar for its final round of dehydration. But you don't have to have a dehydrator to do it. You can, just put that final kind of cup of real brown liquid just by your stove or at the top of your refrigerator for a few days. You can cover it in muslin or just, cheap linen. This is linen used as paint cloths, but you can get a whole bunch of them in a bag at Lowe's for real cheap. They do fade all over everything, so don't wash them with other things. But they're really wonderful for cooking and just kind of, stuff that you need to let dehydrate over some time without bugs getting in them. So it will ultimately go into here, and each stalk will put together about that much. And then people generally say to use about a pea size of resin and like put it on your tongue or whatever. I don't find all that messing around to be necessary. You don't even have to get it to that gummy a level if you don't want to, because all you're going to do anyway, you can just put it into water and take it any way you want. And it will last a really long time, even if it has some of that liquid in it, because it's already very antifungal. It's already very antiviral and antimicrobial. I mean, I've in fact had one batch of it sitting on my counter for like 4 months and didn't put a lid on it. And it's just sitting there and it's fine. So I did mean to put a lid on it, and I have now put a lid on it. But it's just to say that, you can get away with being pretty lazy with it. So another myth about it is that it is a totally different thing from any other kind of plant, which is just nonsense. It's just a kind of dandelion, honestly. It's the same kind of shape. We have canadensis around here, or sativa, it's sometimes called, around here. So it's real spiky, but it can be a good foot long. There is also the kind that's more of a football shape, or like a long teardrop shape, where the part that's sticking to the stalk is the pointy part, and then it rounds out into that teardrop. But there's all kinds of hypotheses and fairly standardly believed folk wisdoms around, oh, well, it has a spiky midrib on the leaf and other things don't. Well, that's not really true. If you look at enough videos in enough regions around any place in the world where this stuff grows, you find enormous variety. So none of that stuff is really true. What I believe is true, because the mineral makeup of it is so exactly what a dandelion green is, and because these have fibrous roots, whereas dandelions have tap roots. Dandelion doesn't grow in my garden at all because we're in clay, real compacted soil. You can't get a good taproot going, but you can get an aerial taproot going and create your own kind of solar panels with the leaves. So I think that's what's going on. But at any rate, as I say, even though I don't eat these, I recommend that you do. Like if you like cooked greens, this is just another cooked green and you can eat all of that. So the way that people tend to make this processing complicated is they'll use multiple pots and all this kind of thing. And we all do know that you can't even put it in stainless steel. It will pull all the metal, which is great news for your body if you have heavy metal in it, because it will help to kind of purify that. But it doesn't help if you're putting more of it in your body by having it leach it all out of your pot and then condense it down and then you eat it. That's no good. So I did make that mistake with stainless steel last year with one batch. I had to throw the whole batch out. So what you see here is for 10 hours, I let this come to a simmer. Now you would put the lid all the way on it on high and just put it all the way up to its 20 hours and then just check on it after about 10. If it's bubbling, then you can take the lid off, because all you're looking for is for it to gently evaporate. Okay, so I can just barely see steam coming up from here. I actually put a plate on it because my plates are stoneware, so they're heat safe, and they're exactly the same size as that, and it seals it better with the plate so I can get the heat up more quickly. You don't want the heat to go beyond really a simmer though, because then it gets a little dodgy and you risk burning things and it's just not as fun. So, but after 10 hours, mine was simmering fine. So I've taken the lid off a little while ago. I set it back to 20 hours. That's the highest amount of time it will allow me to set it for. And it takes altogether about 40 or so hours for me, 40 to 50 hours. And then I'll go outside and get the next one. Now, usually we harvest these in about September. That's kind of the general wisdom, that you wait until they have fully flowered and thrown their seeds everywhere, and then you harvest them. And the reason that people say is because you want the stalk to be as hard and brittle as possible, because it'll have the most latex in it, the most of that milky sap. I have not found in my experiments of doing it with different ages of the stalk and the leaves that there's particularly a benefit to waiting that long, except to seed the yard. Last year, there was a benefit to doing it that long because I wanted to seed the yard. And I did, and now I have a whole bunch of stalks. But this year, it's only May, and the stalks are already, not even kidding you, 15 feet high. They haven't even quite opened their flowers yet. They sure haven't seeded yet. But a friend is going to send me his seeds so that I can further seed the yard, and so that I don't have to put my body, which cannot handle heat very well anymore, to the stress of being outside and harvesting in the hotter weather. Harvesting earlier in the summer also gives me the option of, this only takes about 2.5 days to do, and then it turns into a teeny tiny, very storable amount, and then I go outside, chop the next one down. So, and then now to do that, you do want to leave it in a fallow area. You can't go doing this in an area of the yard that you're going to be mowing all the time. But I make a point of not mowing very often, and so it works for me. So this is just going to go for a couple of days, but I'll show you what it will turn into. If I can open my dehydrator, and again, you don't need a dehydrator to do this. I just happen to have one, and it's super handy to do this part, and so I do. But I do need a glove on because it's a little bit hot. This has a prior batch in it and a new batch in it. So you can see it's still moving around, but it looks a lot more like tar now, right? Now, I'm going to mention tar one other way, and that is that last year I made another mistake. And that mistake was I thought, well, if the aerial parts are good, the root would be super good, right? I love a root. So I made a batch with roots. And because I don't have good soil, because somebody in their infinite silliness thought that putting a tire into the yard to go around the, as kind of a tree planter would be a good idea. Well, that really messes with the soil for, lots of reasons. You can imagine kind of all the toxins that are in a tire, right? So since I haven't purified that soil yet, and I can't get that tire out of my yard yet, it was a mistake for me to pull up the roots and put those in there. It ended up tasting like tires. I had to throw it out. So don't do that, but you can take it all the way down to the nub. The other thing that you can do, if you would like, is as the leaves get really nice and green and juicy and like excited, and before they start going brown and stuff at the bottom, they'll start going brown at the bottom and getting dried up as they make new leaves. Before they do that, when they're still nice and green, but you have enough leaves to keep growing the stalk, pull some of those leaves off and harvest those because they're excellent for you. They juice really nicely. I have juiced them. They do juice really nicely, and they're, free juice. So hope that helps a little bit to clarify some of the myths, but also to just show you like how simple this is. A lot of people will show you, they'll be doing it outside and they'll put it in this big pot, they'll put it in that big pot, they'll worry about it getting too hot and this and that. You really don't have to worry. Just use your crock pot. This is just a regular, large crock pot. And if you have a lot of stock, you might only be able to get about 3.5 quarts of water in there, but just, you fill it to the top. Many of them, it will take exactly a gallon, and that'll just be convenient and whatever. But for the cost of a gallon of water, 50 cents around here, you can make this stuff. And of course, you can forage it from other places. This will be my first year where I don't have to forage from anybody else's property or from near the road, which is really not a good thing to do, but I didn't know at first. So now I do it in my backyard where there's no traffic, there's no access to exhaust and fumes, and it's going to be a way healthier. And I'm already getting a way sweeter product, kind of a grassier, sweeter product. So once you have it, if you're not feeling patient or you don't want to get your hands goopy, stirring it around once it gets real goopy, that's fine. You can just leave it in the fridge and just pour a little in your water, and your body will know how much it wants because it will smell really good when you need it, and it will smell just kind of over minerally and kind of strong when you don't need it. But it's quite a pleasant taste. It reminds me of kind of like a good iced tea, or like a good kind of thin coffee kind of flavor. It's tannic and it's highly minerally. And so it has all of that, but without the caffeine and all the adrenal nonsense that goes along with that. So anyway, hope that's helpful. We will sign off for now.